Hi friends, your pal Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we are going to talk about um, the Neal Brennan, Leanne Morgan video that was done, where essentially Neal Brennan interviewed Leanne Morgan. Now, Leanne Morgan is a stand-up comedian, and Neal Brennan is a stand-up comedian. But there's a lot here to learn for dungeon masters. I thought this was really, really fascinating. Now, I've done a lot of material covering what we can learn from Neal Brennan about um, Dungeons and Dragons. He is an incredibly unique talent. He is responsible for Dave Chappelle's show, the Dave Chappelle Show. So it was him and Dave, and it really wouldn't have been the same show without them. So, and he gets a lot of credit for making that show successful. Now, Dave Chappelle was able to have a lot of success without him, but that show wasn't part of Dave's success without him. That show was part of, like, he really did a huge favor for Dave Chappelle and really kind of made his bones there. What was very interesting is now Neal Brennan has a show called Blocks. And this Blocks thing is he sits down with mostly comedians and he talks to them about their mental health, which I find absolutely fascinating. And the reason why every dungeon master should be watching this show, every dungeon master who's 18 or older, he talks about some mature content, is because he's just so absolutely fascinating. And his show is really looking at the human condition. And I think that's what really Dungeons and Dragons is about. Once you understand what the remove of Dungeons and Dragons can accomplish, you really understand that every session is a powerful exploration of humanity in a way that is more powerful than anything that can be found outside the sacred space. Now, I am fortunate. I'm an evangelical Christian, and I can tell you right now, people who believe in Jesus and actually have a real faith, they can explore humanity in ways that are far greater than Dungeons and Dragons. But on the secular side, there's nothing even close. Nothing explains the psyche, explains emotion, explains the spiritual nature of humanity better than Dungeons and Dragons. It is simply, it's peerless. There's just no better way to explain what's happening with it. It is a shockingly powerful thing, that happens. But Neal Brennan gets in and he starts talking to Leanne Morgan. Okay. Now, Leanne Morgan she's 50 years old. She said that in the podcast. And she is a stand-up comedian who's been doing her thing for like 10 years now, and she's extremely successful. And what really blew me away was she came in and she's like, "Hey everybody, I'm Leah." She came in with Neal Brennan, and it was just I'd never seen anything like it in my life, right? It was like, "Hey, you're like," Leanne Morgan was like, "Hey, good to see you again, Neal." And he's like, "Hey, good to see you, Leanne." And what was really powerful was it was just like two experts meeting, saying, "I am not threatened by you. You are not threatened by me. We both know what we're doing. We are both phenomenally good at what we do. We are both established experts in our fields, right? And we don't need to prove anything to each other, and we can have a lot of goodwill for each other because our successes are not at the expense of the other person's success." I was like, and honestly, I have never seen anything like it. It was so shocking and so refreshing to experience this and just see this unfold the way it did. It was really powerful, and I was extremely impressed by it, right? But what was really interesting was just this idea of, it was just really interesting to see how how they came together. But then I had seen Leanne Morgan do her thing a few times, right? And what really kind of surprised me was Leanne Morgan jumped in, and and he said, okay, so tell me about your thing. Tell me about what happened with everything, with your career. And she said, well, you know what? Basically, my stand-up career started in jewelry sales. So he's like, what? And she's like, yeah. So basically, just like people used to sell Mary Kay, people sell jewelry the same way. They get a party together, and then you're like, hey, we have this party. Come to this party, buy some jewelry, hang out with your girlfriends, maybe drink a little bit, or just have some good snacks or whatever. We are going to sell some stuff, but it's going to be a fun time, right? Now, I've never been to one of these. I definitely know what these are, though. I had heard about this, right? And I thought this was very, very fascinating, just how they actually explained, how all this worked. But she said that basically what had happened was she started with this group, right? And she was getting booked a year in advance. She was so successful. And what would happen is the women would book her, and the reason why was she would bring everybody in, and she would do the thing. She would sell, like she actually sold the jewelry, right? No two ways about it. Like, the sales were getting done, right? But in addition to the sales getting done, they were, she was telling jokes, and everybody was was laughing and having a good time, right? So she was really doing stand-up outside of a stand-up place, right? And then she realized, oh my gosh, I'm funny. Maybe I could do this. And she went out and she did it. But what I thought was really fascinating is I have this concept, right? And what I'm saying to the world is, you are a dungeon master, but you should be a leader. And people are like, what? Like, I just, I walk people through cutting goblins in half. What are you talking about? Dungeon masters should lead the world. That's really what I'm saying. I'm saying dungeon masters should lead the world. And so I say this, and people are like, that's outrageous. What are you talking about? And really what I'm saying is, hey, okay, we are smart enough to build entire worlds. We are charismatic enough to control entire tables for months and years, right? We are confident enough to speak publicly. And that last one might seem like a small thing. It is not. Oh my gosh, you would not believe how many people don't dungeon master, because really it is fundamentally public speaking, and most people are terrified of public speaking. So I really, what blew me away is, if you are skilled enough to be a stand-up comedian, you're really skilled enough to get people to talk, have people listen to you about anything. That's the part we need to understand. And I think it goes, and that's just stand-up comedians, right? And if you really think about it, stand-up comedians are doing the same thing we are doing. We're coming in with nothing more. We don't even have the microphone, right? But we have to do all the same things. We have to keep their attention for longer, right? Now, like, they have to do a tight 45, a tight 60, right? We have to do 2 hours, right? We shouldn't be doing 4 hours. That's a different video. But I thought that was really unbelievably important to understand, that, like, she was able to do this sales job because she could just control people, right? She had enough control of herself. She had enough intelligence, charisma, and confidence to have people listen to her for an hour to 2 hours. And if you could do that, you could do anything with that space, right? And what I'm saying is that dungeon masters are way more powerful and way more valuable, okay, than stand-up comedians. And we really should rule the world, right? And I'm just putting this on a shelf. I'm saying it and I'm putting it here. And I know everyone's like, that's outrageously, that doesn't make any sense. But increasingly, right, stand-up comedians are getting 20, 40, $60 million for specials, right? The value of comedians is seen all over the world. Comedians also, did you notice that comedians took over news, just took it over completely, right? Like, there isn't a news anchor in the world that could stand up for 5 minutes against Jon Stewart. I couldn't even list three news anchors. I can list one. But I actually can't. I couldn't. I could list three people who have hosted Jon Stewart's show, right? Not Noah Wiley. No, Trevor Noah, Josh Johnson, Ronnie Chiang. The list goes on and on and on and on, right? And so this is my point. I know I'm putting this here. I'm saying this because I think some people are going to start to realize I'm right. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing and have a fetch millennium.